ACT radar, and ran through flight management computers. Every system on every aircraft had to be confirmed operational before a single soldier stepped onto the ramp. The pilots knew that 14 hours from now, they would be landing on a foreign airfield in a region on the edge of open war. When the order reached the hangars, the soldiers filed out onto the airfield in long columns, duffel bags, hard cases, personal weapons, everything carried by hand to the waiting aircraft. At the rear cargo ramps, bags were loaded onto the roller systems built into the aircraft floors and stacked tightly by soldiers working inside the bays, lashed down with cargo straps to prevent any shifting during the long transoceanic flight. The troops climbed aboard and took their seats along the fuselage walls and center rows. The mood was calm and even loose. Conversations, jokes, a last glance at a phone before it was pocketed. These were soldiers who had done this before. Loading onto a C-17 for a combat deployment was as routine to them as a commute. The rear ramp sealed, the engines spooled up, 4 Pratt & Whitney turbofans coming to life one after another, and the heavy transports rolled to the runway, lifted off, and climbed into the sky. Destination: Qatar. 14 hours later, the ramps dropped on a military airfield on the other side of the world, and the offloading began without pause. HIMARS vehicles, the same rocket systems that proved devastatingly effective in Ukraine, unchained themselves from the cargo decks, started their engines, and drove down the ramps directly to their assigned firing positions near the Iranian border. They did not stop at the airfield, they did not wait. They drove straight to where they needed to be and prepared to fire. Simultaneously, aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, operating in the region, Marines were loading into Sikorsky MH-60S Nighthawks and V-22 Ospreys on the flight deck. Full combat load, rifles, body armor, ammunition, and lifting off one after another toward the Qatari coast. The ground force was assembling. Tents were already up. Perimeters were already set. Communications were already running, established by advance teams who had arrived before the main body. The arriving troops dropped their gear, received orientation briefings, and took their positions within hours of landing. From offshore transport ships, the amphibious assault began. Assault amphibious vehicles, sealed, armored, tracked machines capable of operating both in open water and on land, launched from the ship decks and pushed through the sea on rear-mounted water jets at 8 knots. Each one carried up to 21 Marines with full combat equipment, armed with a turret-mounted machine gun and grenade launcher. When they hit the shoreline, the water jets cut off, the tracks engaged, and the vehicles drove straight up the beach without slowing. Behind them came the landing craft air cushion vehicles, massive military hovercraft riding on cushions of compressed air, skimming across the water at over 40 knots, each one carrying armored vehicles, trucks, and up to 60 tons of cargo. They drove directly from the sea onto the beach, ramps dropped, and vehicles unloaded in minutes. Humvees, cargo trucks, and armored personnel carriers delivered straight from ship to shore in a continuous shuttle that did not stop until everything was ashore. In the air above it all, helicopter crews loaded belt ammunition into their door-mounted M240 machine guns, belts inspected link by link, fed through the receiver, charging handles pulled, and lifted off on continuous patrol patterns over the surrounding territory. Their mission was to intercept Iranian Shahed drones before they could reach the troops below. One helicopter would return to refuel and rearm while another immediately replaced it in the pattern. The sky above the force was never uncovered, not for a single minute. Every angle of approach was watched, every radar return was tracked, every visual contact was assessed, and if a Shahed appeared, the door gunners would engage it and destroy it before it reached the perimeter. This is what American military power looks like when it is fully unleashed. Not a measured response, not a cautious escalation. A complete, coordinated, overwhelming deployment of force, from the barracks to the beach in under 24 hours. Paratroopers, Marines, carrier aviation, rocket artillery, amphibious assault, air defense, every domain covered, every gap closed, every contingency planned for. Iran spent decades building its military. The United States built the force that dismantled it, deployed that force across the world in a single day, and positioned it to finish the job. History will record what happened to Iran's military. It will record it briefly, because it did not last long enough to require a long chapter.